Welcome to The Drawing Board. I'm your host and in-house artist, Erin Leffler. If you're not familiar with The Drawing Board, here's a quick recap of what happens on the show. Every episode of The Drawing Board, I invite a guest from the comics and entertainment industry, and we learn a little bit more about what they do. And while we learn about what they do, I'm also drawing them. Pretty fun, right? Well, my guest is somebody who I am so excited to introduce you to. You may be familiar with some of her work. She was a part of a group back in the 1960s, which was a premier group for Motown Records. And the interesting thing is, their popularity rivaled that of the Beatles, which you can imagine was a pretty hard thing to do at the time. She's been a part of songs that you may know, such as Baby Love, and she even showed up on a show called Dancing with the Stars. Please welcome my guest, Mary Wilson. Hi there.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm wonderful, thank you. So you're an artist. I've always wanted to draw. I draw stick people. But I did. You know what? I took drawing classes when I went back to NYU back in the 90s because I really wanted to paint and to draw and whatever. And I still couldn't do it.
That's amazing. It's funny because we're the inverse. I've always wanted to sing. So hey.
There you go. So God gives people, everyone some kind of talent, and we always want something else. We always want something else, right? But there you go. Mm-hmm.
So for the people who may not know, because I did mention a lot, and your career has been absolutely incredible. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've done?
Okay, as you mentioned, I started singing with the group called the Supremes. We were popular back in the 60s. And when I say we were popular in the 60s, our music was released in the 60s. And we had something like 12 number 1 million selling records.
Wow.
Some of the records, I'll say in case some of your audiences may not have been alive in the 60s. So our first number 1 record was Where Did Our Love Go? Second, Baby Love. We had Stop in the Name of Love, Come See About Me. You Keep Me Hanging On, You Can't Hurry Love, the list goes on and on. So those were some of our number 1 million selling records. And this was at a time back in, 60s when Black was still not beautiful yet. A lot of people are not aware of that, but we were, a lot of times we couldn't even vote back in those days. So it was a long time ago, but I'm still alive. And people mention the Beatles, but you had Cher, Sonny and Cher, you had Aretha Franklin, you had all these people. All of us were just making music back in those days.
I love that. And I think it's so cool because the stuff that you guys did back then transcends time, because there's so many artists now who do covers of them. There were plenty of popular artists in the 80s and 90s who did covers of your work. So work has been just like timeless.
Yes.
Cool.
Well, I like the idea that, Motown Records was our recording company, but you had, a lot of wonderful recording, you had a lot of wonderful recording artists back and record labels, but Motown was our recording label.
And Motown was special too because it brought so many popular acts into the mainstream. It brought you guys, it brought the Temptations, it brought like so many record-breaking groups, and that's really, really cool to be a part of that.
Right, exactly.
So I have to ask, because your guys' music was absolutely incredible, and you've had such an amazing career. When did that start for you? Did you kind of start that younger, or was that something you figured out sort of later in life?
Well, we started singing, we being the Supreme, started singing in 1959, and we had another name. We were called the Primettes, and we were 4 girls, and later on we changed our names to the Supremes, and we were 3 girls. So we started singing very, very young, but not as something we wanted to do for our rest of our lives. We were just using a gift that God gave us, which was singing. But eventually, I think it was around 1962 or 61, it was, that we decided we wanted to do this for a career. And that was a pretty big move for, 3 little, we were only about 16 years old at that time.
Wow.
That was a pretty big move. And we ended up going to Motown Records and sitting out on their lawn, hoping to be discovered. And
amazing.
yeah, pretty soon we were discovered, but we were turned down. And,
Oh,
yeah, we were turned down, but we were three little, we were four little tenacious little girls, and we just kept bugging them until eventually they did sign us. So there you go. And that's when we started recording, and our success really started taking on a whole nother level, because as I mentioned, we started as a hobby, and now here we're thinking about maybe this is something we should do as a career move, which was kind of odd back in those days for young girls and also for Black young girls to, I always say, dare to dream, but we did. We dared to dream. And, look, here I am some 60 years later, Diana Ross as well. We made our dreams come true.
and we're so fortunate that you guys did dare to dream because there's so many things of music that we wouldn't have without you. So that's like such a wonderful thing.
Thank you. Mhm.
Well,
Well, yeah, it's wonderful because, and you mentioned this a moment ago, so many people have used our music and I won't say copied, but emulated, our music. And so that makes me feel very good that Florence, Diane, and I, did something that inspired other women to do it and to think so much about it that they wanted to, sort of copy it. So we were the models, I guess what they say today, we were templates.
I love that.
Yes.
Now, this is something I love getting to talk about, and it ties in perfectly what you were just saying. At that moment in time, it wasn't really something that you would see women doing, and especially Black women doing. And that was such an
Mhm.
important thing. And I love
Mhm.
getting to talk and about how important diversity is and how important it is for kids to know that it's important no matter who you are to chase your dreams. So, what
Yes.
do you think? Do you think that Hollywood can still kind of use a little more push in the right direction with diversity? And how important is it for kids to know that?
Well, I think that the world should use that diversity, because that's what it's all about. We are all human beings on this earth,
Yeah.
and so everyone should have an opportunity. The one thing about America is that and after traveling all over the world, I can tell you that here in America we have, the ability to allow people to do anything and to become whatever they want. A lot of countries, are, and after traveling around, I can tell you they just don't have the same opportunities. However, this is a time now with this pandemic going on where it's kind of difficult to say that we're ahead of everyone, but I still think we have that. Okay, so we're not ahead of everyone right now.
Yeah.
So one time out of a million, okay, let's say America behind. But I think that we have we've been awakened to move forward, to take some more steps in a better direction. So so we, because the other world was fighting for years and years and years, and we here in America didn't have to do that. So it just finally kind of caught up with us, and we got to just now catch up and bypass everyone.
Absolutely. Now, I love getting to talk about this specifically because there was kids now that are in their adult years and everything who loved what you guys did, that grew up listening to you. I mean, I grew up listening to you and it affected my career path and everything. What's it
Mhm.
like knowing that you were a part of something that could essentially change the trajectory of some kid's life out there?
Wow. Well, I didn't realize that until years later, that we definitely were perhaps starting something that was so profound, and other people would look at it and say, wow, we think we can do it too. So that's a good feeling to have, to know that we were just young girls doing what we want to do, and not for any gain or anything like that. We were just doing it, and eventually realized, whoa, this is really something good. We caught into something really good here. So yeah, to know that we're inspiring other people, to me now in this time in my life, I'm very thrilled. So I do say to most people, go ahead and dare to dream. If you have a feeling that you want to do something like whatever it is, whatever field. I mean, now, women can do whatever they want, be scientists and vice presidents, presidents. So yeah, I think that people just need to follow their hearts a lot of times, but also listen to your parents and listen to your teachers.
Yeah.
Because you can, maybe something that you don't know, they know because they've been there. My English teacher when I was in high school is the one who inspired me to become a writer. I mean, I didn't know anything about writing, you know what I'm saying? But he saw some of my papers that I sent in. He gave me an A plus 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 plus. And I think you should become a writer. Well, in my mind, all I was thinking about was becoming a singer at this time, at the age of, 16, 17. But I listened to him and I started keeping my diaries. I started keeping my, journals of everything that was happening to us. And eventually I was able to write 3 books.
That's
So
amazing.
thank you, Mr. Boone. Thank you, Mr. Boone. My teacher, it finally seeped in. It took a long time, though.
Now, that's something I would love to get to talk about because you're one of the only people I've had on here that has spanned from music to dancing to writing. Those are very, very different career paths. So did you ever find it was hard to kind of switch back and forth in between those?
Well, I never switched back and forth. The thing about being an entertainer, and I think entertainers and even the actors and actresses, we are exposed to so many different types of environments and things and whatever that, you can easily go from one to the other because it's all right there. Sometimes if in certain career things that you're involved in, you're only exposed to one area. But being an entertainer, we are exposed to a lot. And so I'm thankful for that because it was, what led me to even becoming a part of politics, In fact, not that I'm a politician, but I have been a part of a lot of legislation that have been passed. In fact, just recently, the it's the Music Modernization Act was passed last year, I think it was, and the president signed it. And it has to do with musicians, writers, singers, whatever, being paid whenever their music is streamed. And this is happening a lot. People used to be able to go to their record shop and buy records. And now you can't do that. So you have to stream them online and things like that. Well, with this new technology, a lot of times you're not paid the same way. So this has now enabled us to be paid whenever people stream our music online. So I'm a part of that and, part of helping that bill to be passed. We have another bill called the Truth in Music legislation that I've been working on with other people, not just myself, other entertainers. And so we have actually, I think, gotten that bill passed in maybe 30 some states. So now we're going for the federal legislation to have that passed. So, I've been involved in that as well. And it's been really gratifying because, it's good to have a record company, but now that a lot of us don't have record companies, we got to fight for ourselves, and you have to learn how to do it yourself. And so I'm doing that now. Since I'm at home with the pandemic, I have to find things to do. And what else? I'm learning how to Zoom like we're doing today.
Yay!
Yeah, because I didn't know anything about this. In fact, my daughter, who's 44 years old, and her children have been helping me set all this up because I can't set it up. And they set my office so that, it looks good on your screen and things like that. So, and I'm learning how to now do this. But do people still Skype or is it all stream now? I mean, all Zoom now.
Yeah, well, I actually did one of these on Skype, so it's all over. I think it's just kind of like the more popular one right now.
Is that okay? Because so back in our day, we had 45 records, we had 33 and a half records, we had 75, and then it changed, and then you had all kind of little systems,
Yeah.
all kind of pads and listen to your music, and a lot of things have just you VHS and all those kind of things. They're no good any longer. So I guess Zoom is the latest technology, right?
Well, if it makes you feel better, records are definitely making more of a comeback, and that's something
Yeah,
that I'm big on. I have a record collection and everything, so I'm really excited to
right.
see kind of this younger generation picking that up. They're super excited about it too, so that's a great.
Yes, vinyl has made a comeback. Yeah, so I'm happy about that as well. I have my huge collection, but I kept mine throughout the years, so mine is kind of old too.
The old ones are the best ones for sure. But
Yes.
also, thank you so much for the work that you've been doing for music artists, because I think that's an important thing to touch on, because that will affect future generations down the road with how
Yes.
the music industry is changing.
hmm it will, and I'm very happy because it's changing so much with the new technology that we have to keep up with it. And if you don't, you can lose out on monies that you should be receiving. So
Absolutely.
yes, I'm very happy about that as well.
So, a topic I love to get to talk about, especially since you've had such a beautiful career, you'd have a lot of experience with this.
hmm
You mentioned it earlier that you guys did get rejected at first when you first went in to try to get a gig. Everybody in the industry, whether musicians, artists, actors, we all get rejections, whether we like it
Sure.
or not. And that can be a little tough to face. Should kids
Mhm.
take that as something personally at them, or can they use that as a learning experience?
Well, I think rejection is something that probably, even at a very early age, a lot of people, myself included, um, you can see that actually hinders you in terms of moving forward a lot of times, unless you have the right people around you. And sometimes we don't, it's not always, you don't always have the best people around you. That's one of the things I think that people really have to find out. But aside from that, is that you actually have that. You need to have that inside yourself. You need to have that belief in yourself, so that when you are rejected, you have yourself to think back on and say, okay, now wait a minute. I know I'm good. I've studied. I passed. I did all these things I should be doing. So I know I just got to kind of keep at it. And that's what we did as the Supremes. What we did was the first time we were rejected by Motown, Mr. Berry Gordy, and we were only just barely 17 years old. So when he said, come back and see me after you graduate from high school, we had to go away, and that really hurt. But we kept at it. You know what I mean? We didn't let that stop us. We kept coming back, coming back, coming back, and we never gave up. So that, to me, that's one of the main things that we have to have, is that belief in ourselves, because we really thought we were good. I mean, no, we knew we were good. I remember
Love that.
Florence Bella said as we walked out the door, she was like, they can't be that good if they don't know how good we are. So, we really, even at 17, we really realized how, talented we were. So that's the one thing, is that belief in yourself. And sometimes, people don't tell you how good you are. Sometimes people are jealous of you, or whatever. Or sometimes people just don't have time for you, you know. So that's why I say that belief in yourself is very important for
Now,
people to have. Mhm.
yeah, hand in hand with this, something big within, especially the entertainment industry, is competition, because you have to go up to stand out against so many different acts that are
Yeah.
out there. And that can be a challenging thing, especially now with social media. It seems like
Oh, yeah.
everybody's in competition with everyone. Do you think
hmm
competition is something that should be first and foremost, or can people kind of like make friends with fellow creatives and learn from them?
hmm Well, both ways. I think that competition is always good, but sometimes when people compete against each other, that kind of, it can be hard too. So at Motown, let's say for instance, we had so many marvelous. Everyone there was talented, and but no one really competed with the other persons. What they did was embrace, like it was Marvin Gaye. I remember the Motown Review tour that we did, and we went out. We had Marvin Gaye on it. It was Mary Wells, it was the Marvelettes, the Miracles. I mean, the Temptations. It was all these groups, and the Contours. So when, say, for instance, if the Contours did a great job on that in the act, they made the show so great. So whoever followed them would have to really go in there and do a better job. But it wasn't competing against the others, just the one was so good that the next one it made you be even better. But that was friendly competition. And that's the type of thing that you would want to have is a friendly, the friendly competition. But to me, sometimes I don't think competition is good when it puts someone else down. I really don't. So, you just got to weigh those things and what's important to you. And again, it comes back to you knowing, how much you enjoy what you're doing, and you're not trying to beat someone else. You're just trying to be your best. I think that's what I would say. Just be the best person that you can be.
I love that.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
I think that's the most important thing that we should have, be the best person you can have. And if someone, is been the best they can be, maybe it's their time, so there you go.
That's a great way to put it. I love that.
Yeah.
So I love getting to ask this because when I do Comic-Cons and I guest at them, I have a lot of kids asking me because nowadays it seems like the only thing you can do to be successful is to only do your job 24/7. So for you, do you have any hobbies that you like to do when you were outside of doing music or writing?
Well, the thing about me is that I'm always doing music. and then I say that, but then I'm also doing a million other things as well. I'm writing books or I'm doing Zooms but I used to have lots of hobbies. I mean, I used to love to bowl. I used to love to play tennis. I never really, I wanted to swim, but I was never good at swimming because we never had swimming pools around us when I grew up. So I never really learned how to swim. And when I started later in life, I was a bit timid or scared. So do whatever you want to do early in life because trying to learn it once you get older is kind of hard. But then I skied a lot. In fact, I took my children on a skiing trip in Canada when I was working there, and they all learned how to ski. My boys learned how to ski when they were like 7 or 8 years old. But I've done a lot of things, and I used to enjoy going to dances when we had the discos and all those things. Before, oh honey, we used to dance. I could dance all day, all night. So I mean, I've always enjoyed myself doing different things. So I'm one of those people I love life and I love just doing things.
Nice. Do you think that it's important that kids do things outside of their work? Does it help keep them fresh?
I think it's important that parents should expose your children to a lot of different types of activities because, maybe they can't be good at everything, but at least expose them to it. So when they get a little older, they can say, well, you know what? I didn't like it before, but I like it now. So, I think the more exposure children can get is better for them, especially like in school. When we were going in school in the 60s, we were exposed to so many different types of things. We had home economics for the girls, we had wood shop for the guys. We had driver's education. We learned how to sew. We learned how to make mayonnaise, to cook. We learned so many things because we were exposed to it. I don't think that children are being exposed to things in school the way they should be, so that they're more aware. And then there are certain things, subjects that were for girls, certain subjects were for men, boys. But I think that science is something that math. There are lots of different types of studies that now anyone can do. You don't have to be a man to do this or a girl to do that. We all should be exposed. Look at how many female astronauts and things people are studying that. I mean, the more you're exposed to, the better chance you have of choosing something that you really have a passion for.
Absolutely. Now I have to ask, because this is so interesting.
You
obviously had to have a few dance moves to do your live performances and everything, but you were on Dancing with the Stars not that long ago, and that's a completely different type of dancing. What was that like, going from doing, little routines on stage to that?
Well, but I was looking at a lot of clips. We did so many types of dance, and when we did all those TV shows, because I used to have variety shows, and we were always doing different choreography. So we did a lot of those same kind of dances they did on Dancing with the Stars. So it wasn't new to me at all. And after dancing for like 40, 50 years, you kind of still have your sway. So, but to be on Dancing with the Stars was wonderful. I totally enjoyed it. I had a great coach, Brandon, who was fabulous, and he was so patient with me, because I'm in my 70s, and he was like just barely 20, I think. I maybe 20. But anyway, it wasn't hard. I think the one thing that I had a little difficulty with is that we had to learn all those steps in 1 week and then do them. So that was a part. Whereas when I was doing the Dancing with the Supremes, we had to learn maybe in one night or 2 nights or a week. But we went on stage, and each time you would perform on stage, you would get better and better and better. So the time thing wasn't as important as it was on Dance with the Stars. But I say that just to say that was the only difficulty that I really felt under pressure with having to do and to perform, right? And then you're performing on TV with hundreds and thousands of people who are watching. So that was the one thing. But I totally enjoyed being on it. And I think all of the Supremes fans, they enjoyed seeing me on it. It was good. It was fine.
Yeah. So this is a question I love getting to talk about because we all know so many things now that we didn't know when we first started that probably would have helped us when we started out. So are there any lessons that you learned, throughout your career that you wish you would have known maybe when you started out?
Lots. But, to answer your question, there were lots of things, perhaps like getting proper legal advice. I think that would have been something that could have helped me because, I've ended up 50 years later still fighting over things that I gave away when I was 17 years old, contractually. But still, even that, there are things, I think we were young, and so a lot of decisions were made without me really knowing what they would lead to later in life. But, I could go on, I could pick on a lot of things and say this was that was that, yeah. But, I don't think that they're as important as having that legal mind. And because one thing for us is we had the great record company, Motown Records, and, they kind of did everything for us. And so a lot of things I was late in learning, like I never even learned how to balance my checkbook until till we were stars, I had to learn how to do that. So there are lots of things, but I think the biggest thing is, yes, I wish I had known a little bit more about life and not been so naive, about things, especially boys. I thought that boys or men thought the same way we did. Every time I fell in love, I thought they were falling in love too. I didn't realize that they weren't. So that's something I wish I had learned early.
Now, I'd love to talk about this because you kind of just mentioned it. You start out and there's a lot of things contractually that maybe you don't know and everything. And also with that, signing contracts and everything, some companies then have control of what you sound like and everything. How important do you think it is to maintain artistic integrity when it comes to music?
That's kind of difficult to say exactly. As I said, I was very happy that we were at Motown Records. And so we had the best producers. Holland Dozier Holland was just great. Then there were songwriters and people like Smokey Robinson was one of the greatest songwriters in the world. And of course, Berry Gordy, who took us under his arms to guide our career. And sure, there are things now that I look back that I said, well, maybe I wish we had a little more this, a little more less that. Maybe had I been given a little more, time to learn certain things. But all in all, I'm very happy that we were at Motown Records and had as much and were given as much as we were given. Yes, there are lots of things that should have been different, but when you're that age, sometimes you just don't know the right things to do. So I'm still singing after 60 some years because of Motown. I'm singing those records. So I don't think that was a bad thing. Sometimes, however, to really kind of answer your question, you do have to speak up for certain things. Take Marvin Gaye for instance. No one wanted at the company wanted him to sing, the rock and roll as he was singing or R&B. He wanted to sing more standard material, beautiful ballads and all. But then he kept on, and look, he ended up making some great music. I mean, What's Going On, one of the greatest songs ever. So he was able later in life to then start creating his own music. But we never really wanted to write or things like that. So it works for some people to speak up for what they really want to do, and for others like us, well, we enjoyed singing, what was given to us by Holland Dozier Holland.
Yeah. This is something that is a great topic to talk about, especially when talking to kids, because a lot of times it seems like once you get to that plateau, there's no going anywhere else. You've made it and that's it. But we all still have dreams and things that we want to do, even when we've made it to a point where everyone thinks that we're at the top. So for you, you've worked with so many different people. You've gotten to do so many amazing things. Is there anything that you still feel like you want to do or accomplish?
Oh, well, I don't think I want to accomplish more. I mean, I pretty much have done everything that anyone could possibly do in one lifetime. I've done many, many things, but there are other things I'd like to add. Yes. And one of them would be to maybe go into film. I've done some, but nothing major. I shouldn't say nothing major. I mean, they're all major for me, but I mean, no big films is my point. However, acting is something, I've always thought about doing, and I've studied throughout the years. I've actually done off-Broadway plays. I've done lots of different plays. So I would still want to do that. And it's something that I'm working towards now. With the pandemic has stopped everything for this year. It makes it difficult because I was actually studying, doing lots of studying for voiceovers and acting and everything. So that's kind of stopped now, which really put a little pin in my life. Acting would be something else. And I still would love to record more songs, but of course I have no record company now. And just everything's been put on hold until this pandemic is over.
Yeah.
So I mean, I would like to continue to live. I mean, to me, to live is to do whatever you want to do, but I'm no longer trying to accomplish things. You know what I mean? In terms of, I got to reach this goal, I got to reach that. I just want to keep doing things, because it's fun. So I'm 76 years old, and I say to people out there, just keep living. I mean, just keep doing whatever you want to do. And I'm in a kind of position where I can do just that. I don't have to. I don't have to really accomplish anything else.
Yeah. So for you, you've had an amazing career. Your career has spanned through several different things that you've gotten to do. Are there any memories that particularly stick out in your mind? That's something that you'll always treasure. What that happened?
Oh, many things. I mean, I have so many things I could, one of the major things has nothing to do with my career, and that is my children. I absolutely adore my children. I adore my grandchildren. I have 10. And so that's to me one of the major things. I would have not been very happy had I just had my career, but my children have made me feel totally complete in terms of my life. I have a career and I have a family. And so those are, great things. Now I can tell you some other things in my career that have been just monumental, but I think the children are perhaps the most important thing for me. Now.
Really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I always find that so touching when people are like, my family is because I think family is such an important thing.
It really is, because it's part of like your mom and your dad. I mean, those are the cords that you have connection to realness, And then when you have your own children, then you see that that's connected, and it's very important because it can be lonely, even if you're in love or you're married and you have this great career. But if you don't have your own family, that's pretty lonely, I would think.
So if there's a kid out there now watching this and they want to get into writing, if they want to get into, you know, being active and being an activist like you have for different fields and everything, if they want to become a singer or a musician, or if like they're just interested in learning about it now, what is the one thing that you would like them to walk away from this either knowing or learning?
Well, I always say this: dare to dream. That's so important, to dare to dream. And because dreams can come true. I mean, I'm here to tell you, dreams can come true. For me, dreams for three little black girls who dared to dream back in 1959. And I know for a lot of you guys out there, you're saying 59, well, that was a long time ago. And it was. But we did dare to dream. And here I am now, 60 some years later. I think 61 now. Still saying that I'm still daring to dream because it's important to make those dreams come true, and you can. But everyone doesn't have to be a star to to be happy. That's not true. To be happy in terms of maybe falling in love with the right person that makes you happy, maybe having your children, maybe having your job. A job or a career it can be you can be a waitress. If I were a waitress, honey, I'd be, okay, what can I do for you today? So just find what makes you happy, and you can have a passion in life and go for that. I mean, to me, that's it. So you do have to dare to dream to make them come true. You can't just sit still and expect things to happen. You do have to go out and sort of reach for it, step into it.
That is absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that and for sharing your insight. That was absolutely awesome. And now comes my favorite part where I get to show you what I was able to create off of you as you were talking.
Okay, well, before you do, let me just say this one thing. I'm working on getting Florence Ballard, the original founding member of the Supremes, a U.S. stamp. So I'm asking all of your viewers to write into the U.S. stamp commemorative committee for a U.S. stamp, because she passed away at 76 and did not have a very good end to her life. And she should have. She was a wonderful human being, but life was just, sometimes life does that, and so that's it. Now,
that was absolutely beautiful, and everybody, please go help make that happen. So hopefully the computer doesn't see the colors on this, but I'm going to try to get it up in there as best as I can.
Oh, look at that. Oh, I love it. Can I have a copy?
Absolutely. I'll make sure that gets all sent over to you. But thank you so much again for coming on, and thank you so much to everyone who tuned in. Again, I am your host and in-house artist, Erin Leffler. Catch you next time on the drawing board.
Oh, you break my heart. Okay, wrong key, but anyway.